Hey doing everyone, welcome back to the channel. We're going to be going through our round 25 team list, but really just the big news that's happened with all the bunch of guys that are being rested and maybe some opportunities if you have a trade left as to someone that might score really well this week. I think that'll be the easiest way to go through it. Nice and quick update for our last few videos of the year. I hope you've enjoyed, and thank you to everyone who's come along on the ride this year. We're heading into the last round of NRL Fantasy, and then we've obviously got the normal finals, which we'll get into in a different way. So the Raiders and the Roosters, we see pretty much a full strength side for the Roosters. If you held on to Angus Crichton, that's a really good result for you. On the Raiders side, we see Chance head into the number one position and Rapana back to the wing. So however that works, Rapana does most of his good work running the ball anyway, so he'll still get to do that on the wing if you own him. I wouldn't be too stressed, but Chance could be someone that's pretty interesting in this last round. Obviously, if they're coming up against an easier opponent, I think he would be able to score a lot better. But he's someone that's come back really, really good. It's nice to see him playing well, leading into the finals anyway, for their sake. So the other thing to think about is this will be Josh Morris's last regular season game after he has announced his retirement. So congratulations to him and his brother Brett on two amazing careers. If you're holding Verrills, I'd be playing him this week. He seems to have really stepped up a gear heading in towards these finals. He's someone that needed a little bit of time on the park. You can see he wasn't back to his full strength that he was a couple of years ago. He's had a few obviously big injuries, and that's affected how he's played. So that's that with those guys. Not too much to talk about with those teams. So we'll move along to the Sharks and the Storm. On the Sharks side, we've seen Moylan move into the 6 role and should play the 80 now. We've seen Metcalf in the 14 role, so I think they'll obviously use him as some cover for any injuries, which will be easy. And then we're not sure who they're going to pick to take off when he decides to, when they decide to put him on. So not much else to say there apart from Ramian's one of your better guys in that team to have, but most people would have him. On the Storm side, we see 6 players out, but their team doesn't look much different, does it? Obviously, they've Felice is out, Kenny Bromwich, so obviously they're back rowers, but Finucane comes back in, which is good for them. They're still playing Smithy and Harry Grant, so Harry Grant look to play about 55 minutes unless they change what they did on the weekend last time and bring him to 9 and Smithy to 13, but I wouldn't think they'd do that with Finucane there available to play. Jerome Hughes is still playing. We mentioned there'd be a bunch of guys that would get rested, and thankfully if anyone who has him, they decided to keep him playing and play Nico at 6 with Pap at 1. Munster gets the rest, which I suppose we thought. Actually, no. The last couple of weeks we kind of thought that Munster would. That's kind of why I didn't pick him last week. Otherwise, definitely would have picked him over Garrick. But we lose him this week, and we could lose a few other different players. So we'll be lucky to get 16, 17 on the park this week, that's for sure, for most teams. But moving along, we'll head to Eels Panthers, and this one here. Again, a couple of players out in the Eels side. We see Gutho gone, Moses, and also Brown gone. So People's squad is in a bit of turmoil with the Moses one as well. Joey Lussick's still playing, which is good. But the majority of those guys will obviously see him down here. But the ones that are important are really Mitch Moses. And on the Panthers side, they're playing full strength. They're going to try and get the minor premiership, which is fair enough. It looks like they can switch the Panthers and the Storm there if one of them loses, for example. Which I suppose we didn't think that the Storm were going to lose last week, but they did. So if you're having Cleary there, I think it's a good opportunity to captain him still. No issues with what he did last week. He still played all right in amongst 5 errors there. But they're going to want to win, so there's no point why he won't score really well. If they're winning comfortably, I'd imagine he'll get off the field pretty quick as well. So keep that in mind. With that, moving to Broncos Knights, and this one here, we don't see much on the Broncos side. Everyone's still playing as per normal, so nothing to say there. And on the Knights side of things, really interesting that they are secure in that number 7 position. No one can take it. They can't go up any higher, and they're still playing Ponga and Pearce. So they rested a couple of players, I believe. So Brayley Barnett, who have played the majority of the year there, are both getting a rest. I suppose maybe they wanted to try to create some combinations, which you would think that having Brayley there would be ideal to create those combinations, but maybe he's carrying a little bit of something, and they want to get that rested, ready to go. Obviously, Pearce and Ponga haven't played all year, so it'd be good to keep their combinations going. If they, I suppose, have any chance of winning in the finals, I suppose that's kind of the reasoning why they're still playing, but happy days if you own a Ponga or a Watson, especially, or a Bradman Best, for example. So that's that in terms of the news there. Cowboys and Eagles. What we see here is very minimal changes on the Cowboys side. Lolo's in the 13 role now. There's a chance that if the other two teams lose, Eels and Roosters, that Eagles will not have to win to make it into the top four, which would be pretty cool for them. But I suppose the chances of them both losing is slim. Obviously, Panthers are coming up against a slightly harder opponent. Sorry, so the Eels are coming up against a slightly harder opponent in the Panthers, whereas who was the other one? Storm and Manly. Sorry, Roosters. Roosters coming against the Raiders, who are going to be solid as well. So both have a chance of losing for sure, but they both fielded a pretty good team. So the chances of Tommy and that missing out are slim, I suppose, as they're going to want to win and get in that top four. That's pretty important, obviously. So just be aware of that any of DCE, Garrick, Trbojevic, Schuster, other Jake Trbojevic, are a chance of getting dropped or rested coming into this final game. And they've got a few guys on the bench that they can bring in for sure easily. But yeah, no real guys to pick up from those teams, just all holds. Blake Taft's a good one to have if you had him as a cash out. He comes in and plays this one. Guys like Lachlan Ilias, who's going to, you'd imagine, share the role with Benji in terms of the kicking and general play and stuff. Obviously, Benji can do a lot of that, but it'd be cool to, obviously in the last game for them when it doesn't really matter how they go, see how he goes and I suppose gives him his chance to play really well. I still think Amone is a decent bet in this one as for doing really well. Obviously not as good last week, but he had a bunch of negatives. Mamazelos is another one that's a good chance of doing well. Obviously see here a lot of restings. Cook's out. We see Walker, we see Reynolds, we see Latrell out, and also Dane Gagai. So plenty in this one that are out, obviously with Tommy Burgess and the like as well, but they're not too important. Zach Lomax is also out, which is an interesting one or a tough one. If you're looking to, if you picked him up in the last couple of weeks, that'd be very painful for your squad. But other than that, not too much to talk about with these guys. Jaden Sullivan could have a good game again. So what he did last week in that, when he got extended game time, when he's tackling as well as his attacking plays as well, which is really cool. Titans and the Warriors. We see Jaden Campbell there, Fogs and Peachy in their 6 and 7 again. So Fogs should play really well and control this game. He's someone that I think is pretty solid buy-in this week. If you had the one trade left, I think he's a good chance of getting 60 plus, especially against the Warriors. Maybe a couple of try assists as well to go along with his all-round game and running the ball. In terms of anyone else in the team, I wouldn't be touching. On the Warriors side, obviously just holding Reece Walsh. Any of Lodge, Curran, Aiken could be solid pickups this week against the Titans, and probably what's going to be a higher scoring game. And then our last one there, the Tigers and the Dogs. We don't see too much going on here. Obviously, Jock Madden plays again, but Brooks is going to cover most of everything. Madden will just do his thing on the side there, and then Bloor and Leilua, who I suppose are solid. Stefano as well would like to finish off the year really well, and he's been scoring great. We don't see Averillo. He's in a 21 jersey, unfortunately. For a lot of people, we would be wanting him to have played this game and won't get that opportunity. Josh Jackson's going to be great again. If you'd like him, Wakeham or Flanagan, I wouldn't be really touching. But really not too much else to talk about in terms of these team lists. There's really not a lot of guys that you could possibly bring in. We've kind of spoken about it all. Just pick the guy that that's definitely going to play and has the highest potential this week, because it's only a 1 week trade-in, right? If you still have the one left. I've seen a couple of people comment on the last few videos saying that they have a one trade left and get around it, get into it, use it. There's a lot of guys being rested, and just pick the guy that you think is going to score the best, and obviously hopefully taking a bit of my advice along the way as to who you think would be able to do that, which team has the highest the most to gain, which team and which team doesn't, and based on a mashup as to what you think, which team you think is going to win and who's going to come out of that in the best way possible. But so as always, guys, hope you enjoyed that. We'll catch you in next video. I suppose we're just going to do the preview. No trades to make this week. We'll do a preview on all the teams. How I think this week's going to go. It's going to be a little bit more unpredictable with a lot of guys being rested, but that'll be the fun of it, guys. And that'll be our last video for the week. Obviously, a lot less than I used to do, but that's completely fine. We're coming into the end. I hope you all had a great season. We'll catch you in the next one, guys. See you later.